Hello, I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. With us, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. He was the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under the Reagan administration. He was the head of economic policy for the United States of America. Dr. Roberts, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be with you, Greg.
Well, let's talk about the Middle East and what a ball of wax that is. You know, last week in the UN meetings, you had the president saying we can't wait forever. We had Ahmadinejad, the leader of Iran, saying, "Hey, this is a ruse. This is a false problem of an arms race in the Middle East." And then we have Netanyahu saying, "Oh yeah, it's a real arms race, and they're trying to make a nuke, basically." What's your assessment of what's going on there?
Well, it actually has nothing to do with the Iranian nuclear program. It has to do with the Israelis' desire for the water resources in southern Lebanon. They've twice sent in an army to seize southern Lebanon and twice been repulsed by Hezbollah. And the suppliers of Hezbollah are Syria and Iran. And from these two countries, Hezbollah has the rocket-propelled anti-tank grenades that neutralize the Israeli armor and allow the Hezbollah fighters to drive out the Israeli army. So what Israel wants to do is to get rid of Hezbollah. And the way you get rid of Hezbollah is to get rid of Syria and Iran. Now, it looks like they might get rid of Syria because of all the turmoil that we have brought to that country. And Iran is a different opposition. And what this is, it's the effort of the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to involve the United States in Israel's attack on Iran in order to stop the ability of Hezbollah to be supplied, so that the Israeli army can take the water resources of southern Lebanon. And that's what it's about. Everything else is a ruse. It's just like the Iranian president says. This whole controversy over the nuclear program is a hoax because Iran is a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Under this treaty, they have the right to develop nuclear energy. They submit to the International Atomic Energy Agency, whose inspectors are in the country and have been, and who continually report there's no sign of a nuclear weapons program, and there's no diversion of any enriched uranium to a weapons program.
Are they getting access to the big underground, deep buried facilities, the military facilities, so to speak? That's what they call them.
I don't know all the access they have, but I suspect they're getting enough access to write their reports, and that's what the reports say. Now, we also know, for example, that the nuclear energy enrichment that Iran does only enriches to about 5%. I think that's the correct number. And you can't make a bomb out of 5% enrichment. They have moved up their enrichment to 20%, which is a requirement for medical isotopes, which they need. You cannot make a bomb out of 20% enrichment. Moreover, when they began moving up to that level, there was such a controversy about it. They said, okay, we won't do it. We'll let the French do it. And they were working out an agreement where the enrichment for the medical isotopes would be done abroad and sent back to them, and the United States vetoed it. I think we did it on Israel's orders because they want to keep the controversy going because they're not concerned about the enrichment program. They want to get rid of Iran as a supplier to Hezbollah. So to make a bomb, you've got to have, I think, 95% enrichment. The Iranians do not have this capability. They might eventually acquire it, but it's not something that they have, and therefore they can't make a bomb. And as long as the International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors are there, they are accounting for the enriched uranium. They will know if there are diversions. And so none of this has to do with the way it's been presented to the public all these years. It's a hoax. And the real goal of Israel is to eliminate the supply of Hezbollah so they can overrun southern Lebanon. And that's what this is all about.
Well, there's a big possibility that Netanyahu, Israel could attack Iran on its own before the November 6th U.S. presidential election. What's the probability of that happening?
Well, they won't do it on their own. They can't. And moreover, it would be a disaster for them, according to their own military chiefs, their own intelligence chiefs. There's a tremendous opposition inside Israel to Netanyahu about this. He's been warned by many former heads of Mossad and Israeli intelligence, by generals and chiefs of staff. There's opposition in the press. The opposition party is opposed. And apparently, according to polls, the majority of the Israeli people are opposed. And so what Netanyahu is thinking is his maximum leverage on Obama is just prior to the election. Because once the election's over, Obama doesn't need a Jewish vote. But just prior to the election, if Netanyahu attacks Iran, he bets he can count on Obama coming in on his side and backing him up in order not to look like Obama has deserted Israel, left them to their fate, and thereby lose the Jewish vote, which in the case of Florida could throw the state to Romney. And if the election is very close at that time, I think there is a danger that Netanyahu will take the gamble, because he's arrogant, he's full of hubris, and he realizes that this is his point of maximum leverage over Obama. Right? Well, close election, he needs all the votes, and if he attacks then. Now, of course, if we get to this point of the election and the Obama is far ahead, Romney's trailing by the kinds of odds that came out in the poll yesterday, I don't even think somebody as crazy as Netanyahu would take that gamble.
If they do attack, this is going to be a colossal mess for the world, is it not? I mean, the Strait of Hormuz gets closed down. There's all kinds of dominoes and derivatives and interest rate swaps, oil spikes. The U.S. interest in Bahrain and around the Persian Gulf, the Iranians said, we're attacking you. And Israel's going to be whacked and attacked. And I guess Saudi Arabia is going to get a few missiles lobbed into it, too. And so isn't this going to create an economic malaise, a crash bigger than 2008?
You can't predict all the downsides of something like this. Everything you said could come true and worse. And of course, once Syria and Iran are attacked, that leaves the United States face to face with Russia and China. And by then, Russia and China will be aware that they're on the list, that American hegemony will then have rolled right up against two powerful nuclear powers. And you could be talking about the end of the world. So it shows how dangerous this crazed Israeli prime minister is. This is and the fact that Obama doesn't shut him up or tell him if he doesn't shut up, he's going to get a war he doesn't want. It shows the enormous power that the Israel lobby has over what is allegedly the world's only superpower. The world's only superpower has to crawl on its belly to appease the prime minister of a tiny little state that's totally dependent on the United States.
This is the problem with our political system. You know, we have I think Jesse Ventura said, we don't really have a political system. We have a bribery system. And that there's too much money in politics and people can't make honest decisions for the good of the people, for the good of the country, and they have to worry about being elected or, punished by, one corporate group or one country or whatever. It's the entire systemic problem with the United States, the way we fund elections, isn't it?
In this case, it's even worse because the billions of dollars that we give to Israel every year comes back and they purchase our elections. So we give them the money to buy the Congress and the White House.
Handicap this for us then. Do you think Israel will attack Iran before the presidential election?
If the race is very close, and for example, it turns on the Florida vote, Netanyahu is likely to take the gamble because he's, as I said, arrogant, full of hubris, and it's his point of maximum leverage. And they're not concerned about the Iranian nukes. They want the water resources of southern Lebanon. That means they have to get rid of Hezbollah and Hezbollah's suppliers. And that's what this is all about.
And just so people know, you're not a Jew hater or anti-Semitic. I mean, you draw a big difference between the Israelis and Israel, people in Israel, and Netanyahu. Am I reading you right?
That's absolutely correct.
Your beef is with Netanyahu, not
the opposition.
Jews.
The opposition to Netanyahu in Israel is far more powerful than the opposition to him in the United States. As I said, he's been warned by the former Israeli intelligence chiefs, by chiefs of staff in the military, the press, the opposition party, and I think it's true that a majority of the Israelis themselves do not want an attack on Iran. In fact, many of them now are very upset at Netanyahu's blatant interference in the United States presidential election. They're afraid this is going to wake up the Americans and make them realize they're Israel's puppet state, and the Americans will get mad and stop supporting Israel. So this is, as I said before, Netanyahu is not Israel any more than Hitler was Germany. Nevertheless, any critic of Israel, according to the Israel lobby, is anti-Semitic. So unless you go along with everything they want and bow down and scrape and advocate for them, then you are considered an anti-Semitic. So you can't even make an honest criticism that because you think Israel's in danger without being called anti-Semitic. And
you are not anti-Semitic.
No, but I think that term has lost its meaning because they even now call Jews anti-Semitic. The Jewish opposition, Netanyahu says, oh, they're self-hating Jews.
Well, we do live in interesting times. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, thank you for being on USAWatchdog.com.
Glad to be with you, Greg.